Here we go, Rob Barnes.
Thank you, Dave. Well,
Rob, you're looking fine today. I just want to say that right now. Where'd you find that outfit? Where'd you
I'm
find that amazing shirt?
representing Kona Brand.
This
Shout,
uh this this
shout out
this
to our boy Zach.
this webinar, it's like half podcast, half webinar here. This webinar is sponsored by thekonabrand.com. It's my That's my son's business. He actually makes these Hawaiian flannels, and it's a complete joke. Rob saw me wearing this and ran across the room to get his Kona
Yeah,
brand flannel as well.
everyone needs
Um,
flannel, Margaret. You're right. Absolutely. They are awesome. And this is the perfect time of year to be wearing them. A little layering up with the sunshine here in the mountains.
so if you haven't figured it out, Rob and I will introduce ourselves in a minute for those of you that are like, who are these clowns? Well, these clowns have known each other for, we just did the math. It's been 18 years since I met Rob. And that's one of the beautiful things about our industry is Rob and I got to know each other in this industry. We've been on a lot of fun trips together. Rob was, for most of us in here, I'm sure most of us are Americans. Rob came to my house for Thanksgiving one year and helped me build a
I
loft
bet.
in my garage. So we
Yeah,
go back a ways,
yeah, we do.
which is and he's from Australia, which and Friday I'm going to Australia actually, your neck of the woods. And anyway, enough chit chat. What are we doing here, Rob?
Well, I think we're sharing the value of relationships in the association industry to start with. So there's some great people online. Yes, we have. We've known each other since 2008. That was an ASAE connection. I used to fly
Yeah.
in from Australia a couple of times a year. But now what's even more exciting is that we've been able to connect our companies as
Yeah.
well. We've always worked adjacent to each other. Now we're working connected to each other. And I think that what we've discovered through the early part of certainly the Betty journey, which is a little less than the Propfuel journey, but what we've realized is that the cultures of our businesses have come through similar paths and have similar traits that we wanted to share today because it's some of those things that are helping us leverage the available technologies now. We just thought, hey, let's start. We got to share this out because I think there's a lot of people talking about the risks and the barriers and the things around AI. But there's some things that we're doing that's just been really cool, and why not get it together in a week and share it with the industry? So welcome
So
everybody,
the
and thank.
the title is Curious by Design, building teams that thrive in an AI world. And so this is very much about creating a culture that embraces change and embraces innovation. And I put that all around the word curiosity. And that's where we came up with this title. The way we're going to structure this is the first 15 minutes, maybe another 10 or so, because we're chit-chatting for a bit. But the first 15 minutes or so are going to be centered around our dialogue around leadership and the things we've done in our organizations to foster a curious culture. And then I'm going to pull up some slides and we'll show Rob, I can just share the slides. We didn't even talk about that before, but I can share the slides and I'll flip through
Yeah,
them for us.
yeah.
And we're going to show some examples of some of the things we've done internally in our organizations, and then of course how that feeds into the products that we created. Now, uh, Rob, maybe this is a good time for us to introduce ourselves. Why don't you take the floor? Name, company, what you guys do.
Oh, sure. Hi, my name is Robert Barnes. You'll know me as either Rob, Robbie, or Robert, depending on how we met. I am a CEO and co-founder of Betty AI. Um, we built an AI knowledge assistant for associations, our contention being that associations are the best placed organizations in the world to benefit from generative AI. Um, Largest repositories of knowledge for an industry or profession, largely locked away, need to be protected from the public AIs so that we don't give away our institutional knowledge. And so Betty was born. So we work with about 160, 170 associations around the world now. We're just over 2 years old, and we're great partners of PropFuel.
That's true. My name's Dave Will. This is my second business in the association space. The first one was Peach New Media. It was a learning management system called Freestone that's owned by Momentive right now. My current company is called Prop Fuel. We've been doing this for 9 years now, and we've got 340 associations using Prop Fuel to help understand their membership better. What's going on in their membership? How can we take that data to figure out how to progress their engagement and then triggering action based on it. It's all centered around asking questions, listening, capturing input, and then triggering action. That's pretty much as you're going to hear about Prop Fuel until we get to the end of this, and we're talking a little bit about how we incorporated AI into our platform. Now, for you, Rob, Betty was built from the basis of being an AI platform. Prop Fuel, on the other hand, was built as an automation system back in 2017, 18. And then over the past year or so, we've converted it, shifted. I don't want to go so far to say pivot, but we've baked AI right into the core of what it is we're doing. So it's kind of interesting, different angles at this. You have a much younger company. When I say much younger, when did Betty start?
December 2023.
23. Yeah. So that's like 6 years younger than Prop Fuel.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, what do you think makes some teams, like jumping right into this about culture and leadership, what do you think makes some teams so willing to experiment and try new things?
I would say one of the differences is the difference between permissions and expectation. Like, there's a big difference between saying you're allowed to go experiment, versus like, I expect you to go and experiment. And so there's a level of intentionality that comes with building a culture around this is just how we work. And I know we worked pretty hard in the early days and every day talking with the team here at Betty about curiosity, accountability, transparency, and an AI first approach to doing our work, but not a complete automation of your workload. So we're very big on keeping a human in the loop, both as a product but also as a company, the way we work. And so I think that that was one of the biggest parts of it, was saying, we want you to be intellectually curious. We expect you to go and experiment, share the things that you are learning with the rest of the team, be transparent about what worked, what didn't work, where it has an impact, and just keep that rolling through the way, but the rhythm of the company, the way we work is all born from that. And that's proven to be a huge part of attracting really good talent to the company as we hire and retaining them as well. So there's lots of great impacts of having that kind of approach to building the company culture.
How much of that is spoken versus nonverbal? Like, and the reason where I'm coming from is like, I think the actions of leadership, that's how
Yeah,
I'd answer the question. I think the way you and I and my partner Cameron and our leadership team, the things we do demonstrate what we want the rest of our team to do. And so that's kind of this unspoken thing. But then we also, and you mentioned hiring people, for the past at least 2 years, a huge part of the hiring process is asking people just straight up, how are you using AI personally and how have you used it in your job? And you can
yeah.
always tell when people are like tiptoeing around it.
You're
Like
trying to pretend like
you
they
can,
didn't use it for their application letter. Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas we purposely go out and say, tell us what tool you used to produce this application. So again, very kind of intentional. I think what's been really interesting for me, particularly, I mean, Betty itself was born from an experiment. Dre McFarlane, Thomas Altman, just experimenting with machine learning well before OpenAI even existed, for that matter, and very specifically in the association space. So having been born from an experiment, I came into this with a pretty fixed, not a growing learning mindset, but I've been around a long time too. So I had to kind of really think about what I didn't know around this technology, and I knew absolutely nothing in 2023. So I've had to do it intentionally. So it's very much spoken about and then showing what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to learn. And I've got an example that we can share, show here today, about how I've learned to learn, which has been part of the journey. And so learning how to learn differently using generative AI tools and things like that has been a huge benefit to me personally and professionally. But that culture of experimentation existed because that's how Betty came to be in the first place.
You know, learning how to learn that it got me thinking about this as a CEO and founder of PropFuel. I think it's really important to actually use AI the way I want my team to use it.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. And for me, the hardest part, the hardest shift for this Gen Xer was knowing when to use it, like changing the practice, relearning some
Okay.
processes that I was stuck in.
Yeah.
And of course, it starts with the simple things like content, content generation, which is the very first place a lot of people go to start using AI. But
Yeah.
after a while, man, my kids were, I point upstairs because that's generally where my kids have been in the
Yeah.
past. But my kids, they would laugh. Like they started to make fun of me for the amount of time and energy and effort I put into utilizing AI and bringing it into our lives. One of my favorite um, epiphanies, a moment when I really learned like this is a turning point for me with AI. And this is a couple of years ago. I was in Switzerland, my family, trying to figure out the tickets for the next day. We're going up this tram to the top of a mountain, and it was like a multi-part day. I had no idea what to do and where to go in the morning at 7:15. Like, and I do not have a morning family. Let's just put it that way. And at like 7:15 or 7:30 something, we had to be at this certain spot, I think, but I wasn't sure if that was the spot or if we had to go somewhere else. So after 45 minutes of trying to figure out and going to sites and trying to like read through things, I took a picture of my ticket and the email that I'd received. I put it in ChatGPT and I was like, hey, can you help me figure out what I'm supposed to do tomorrow? Where am I supposed to go? At what time?
Yeah.
Within seconds, it had answered all my questions for me. And like well beyond my expectations. That was the moment I became a believer. Like right there and then. That was a couple of years ago. Rob, time is flying. I want to get into the presentation, but I think there's a question that I want to talk about before we do. And I think this leads to some of the things we want to show people today about how we have encouraged curiosity. What are some of the things you've done? I don't mean some of the examples of stuff you've produced, but what are some of the things you've done as a leader to
Mhm.
encourage curiosity at Betty, to encourage experimentation?
The I think the thing that my team are probably sick of hearing from me a lot is asking questions of them from a customer back mindset. I had a brain fart a few years ago and went and worked for Intuit and ran their QuickBooks technology partnerships business for a little while back in Australia. And while I realized that I'd never want to work for a multinational ever again, what I did learn in the Intuit way is this: it's called design for delight. If you just put in design for delight into your favorite engine, you'll learn it. But this idea of working from the customer back, and so part of breeding sort of intellectual curiosity for Betty is this constant view of our customers might be our associations, a lot of which are on this call today. And hi, everyone that's a Betty customer. Um, but it's thinking about it from our customer's customer. So the members of our association customers, what is the impact that we can, should, will have when our associations put the Betty technology out in front of them? And when we go that deep, um, it's kind of like, it's called going broad to go narrow. When you go broad as to what's possible and then go really narrow on a solution, you start to arrive at this whole, again, they're literally epiphanies, and you can investigate it really deeply using generative AI tools now that you couldn't do even a few months ago with deep research and things like that. But when you start going in with that customer back mindset, you start to learn things about the impact that really drive a lot of the decision making that we make about what we want Betty to do and what we don't want her to do for our customers as well. So that customer mindset is really where that I just kind of keep reinforcing for the whole team, regardless of the job that we're doing. What are you getting? What are we doing that's going to improve the lives of our customers members or the stakeholders at that level. So yeah, it's been interesting seeing how people's mindsets change as a result of those conversations.
So there's a few things I've done very, very purposefully. Is that a word? Purposefully? Purposely? Anyway, there's things I've done here at PropFuel. One is, and you made this point earlier, hire curious people. Like so
Yeah,
it's become a part of our hiring process to make sure that the people we bring on are curious and right now, especially curious in AI. Um, Before we had a team Claude account, we just happen to prefer Claude. We offered to pay for anyone that wanted a paid AI account. And we just had this conversation this morning where it came up, how do we feel about people work on personal projects in AI and versus like doing everything in work? And our consensus was, what, working on personal projects is training for doing the professional stuff. So we're all in, man. Like build those apps for your kids and work on the workout fitness app if you want using Claude Code or whatever, because that trains you on how to think about it and use it better at work.
yeah,
We would have team meetings centered around how people are using AI in their jobs, which is kind of cool because it how do I put this? It puts pressure, a little bit of peer pressure on each other to explore a little bit more. You don't want to be the one sitting in that team meeting that doesn't have anything fun to share. So, for good, for better or for worse, I mean, I think that's actually a really good motivational character. And I think it's contagious. When
I
you
think
see
that
what somebody else did, all of
yeah,
a sudden you're like, wait, you could do that. I'll bet I could do that for my kids, or I could do that in my piece of the business. Um, we had a pitch competition for our R&D team, so our software developers, Cameron and Sebastian on our team,
yeah,
where the rest of the business would pitch ideas to them, and then they'd go on a hackathon. In fact, your team and my team and a couple of companies have gotten together in the past and done hackathons. In this particular case, Sebastian and Cameron just locked themselves in an Airbnb and worked on these pitches, which is really cool. But these are some of the things. Oh, and this really doesn't have much to do with AI, but it sure is fun. For years, we've bought people VR headsets. And so every now and then, it's been a little while, but every now and then we'll do our team meetings in VR, which I thought was kind of fun.
nice. I think that's the intentionality that comes from leadership, right? So culture by design, curious by design, these things require some intentionality from leadership. And when you put a little bit of pressure on the team, we did it recently as well at the end of Q1. We were like, you have a week. We have a weekly huddle at the end of every week, all team hands. And we just said by next week's weekly huddle, which is the last of the quarter, everyone will present an AI tool that they have built of your choosing. It either relates to the work that you're trying to do to help you do your work more efficiently, effectively, impactfully, or something completely different. But having a little bit of pressure, having a time frame, to your point, everyone has to come and present. You don't want to be the one person that's got nothing to present. Whether it works or not was immaterial, but it was like this is my hypothesis. It's being able to form, and I think that part of for us is that it's continuing to practice critical thinking, form a hypothesis, go and experiment, do the research, iterate through that hypothesis and tell us what the result was. And when you put that pressure on from a time frame, it's quite amazing the results that you get. And I think that your team, my team, have done some pretty cool things. I actually heard an association talking this morning on another call about how they had an AI Olympics internally as well, which is again putting some structure around activating this culture of experimentation that they were trying to breed that that went through the whole organization. I thought that was a pretty cool approach as well.
So there's a question Jordan Burkhart asked, how do you square utilizing AI platforms versus the risk of being fed into an LLM with proprietary association information? I can tell you that for us, there's a couple of things. Number one is with the paid tools, there's a security agreement, much like when an organization signs a contract with PropFuel doesn't own that data. And when you have a paid version of Claude or a paid version of ChatGPT, they don't have access to that data. But it's also educating your team on what you should and should not post and what you should put up there. But generally, with a paid tool, there's not anywhere near as much risk as using a free tool. Would you agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, I
Or
think
am
that.
I misinformed?
No, not at all. I think you're still relying on the veracity of the licensing agreement for the paid tool, but that's no, in my opinion, no more risky than signing a cloud storage agreement with a Dropbox or a Microsoft in a SharePoint. Anything that's cloud based has got the same protections.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't put the
Yep.
stuff out there. Don't use the stuff out there that you don't want um, being used, and you're in pretty good shape. It's just like don't save stuff in your email that you don't want other people to get access to because email's even far less secure than an LLM. But um, that aside, I think that that shouldn't. There's obviously guardrails, but that shouldn't thwart the culture of experimentation, the culture of curiosity. It
All
should
right. So
be
I've
okay.
got
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up this presentation. Before I do, you know what, you got to tell me, Rob. I meant to test this out earlier. I want to play just a couple seconds of this. So this is something that we're going to be posting on social media in a couple days. I just saw this yesterday, and I thought it'd be fun to share. Like, so everybody, I don't know if this is everybody. Most of the people on our company gave us these baby pictures, not baby, toddler pictures, and we came up with this. I'm not. If the audio doesn't share, it's okay. But tell me, give me a thumbs up, Rob, if you can hear this.
There's nothing like going off script, Dave. I love it.
Can you hear that, Rob, or no?
I can't see anything either. Does that help?
I'm going to stop there, but the point is this is awesome. And it's just fun. That's
Uh,
all it is. Like this is the kind of stuff that team pulls together and it's just having fun with the tools. Um, let's jump into this. So speaking of having fun, this part of the presentation, I think Rob and I both want to show you some of the things we are encouraging in the company. And to be honest, um, this was encouraged accidentally in my company. So, and I don't remember which came out first, but in Slack, we use Zoom, we use Claude Teams. Those are some of our tech stack.
yeah.
At one point, Ryan sent a video out to everybody on our show and tell channel. We have a show and tell where people just share kind of cool things. This is just a screenshot, not the video, but his son's coach gave his son a foot and ankle strength routine to prevent uh, turn ankles, and it was a video, and do this 3 times a week. So instead of just putting a spreadsheet together and printing it out for his son to mark up, he built this app, and it took him I think 25 or 30 minutes to put this app together. And this is the kind of app that would take months to build a couple of years ago. And now my sales guy did it. Bruna in client success made herself a fitness app to so that she would encourage herself to work out more. This is a game one of our client success guys, Nick, made called Picture This, where you guess the year of the photo. It is awesome, just so much fun. And then Allison built this. This is a little before Christmas for her little kids. Built this app around whether or not how you're doing on your road to Christmas. So, but this is an example of some of the stuff people built, and I encourage this, man. I'm all in. I love it because the more people are doing this, the more they're thinking about how they can incorporate tools like this into the business. And it's not just to develop our product, it's to do their jobs better. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, I'm sorry. On 1 second. Yep, on to you.
Oh, this is just a personal one for me because so I have a hobby. It's kind of a side gig. I work with the World Fitness Tour, and we're about to go into London for round one of this of the world tour. Everything that this organization did is in pounds. I'm from Australia. We do everything in kilos. So I'm like, I could not work out how to build all the barbells and everything. I have about 20 volunteers working on my team. And so I'm like, hang on a minute. I think I can build an agent that's going to help me. So I built an agent that works on site with me, and it helped me build out all of the barbell planning that I needed to do so that we could build out this entire floor. And I could understand visually the screenshot there actually turns into a graphic it shows me how a barbell should get built with all the different plate colors on it. So I didn't have to worry about pounds or kilos anymore. I can just go with colors because I'm a simple guy. But this was a lot of fun. And it was actually super useful because we have about 3 minutes to change a complete competition floor from male to female, pro to elite, whatever. And you've got to get the barbells right, right? You don't want someone lifting a barbell that's got the incorrect weight on it. And so I was able to build an agent to help me do that, and it's markedly changed the way that we deliver that competition on the floor. So a
Was
lot.
this Chat GPT? Is that what this is?
This particular one was it was a ChatGPT custom GPT that I built, yeah, based
Yeah.
on the stuff that I needed. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So then it leads to, I mean, that's the fun stuff, but then it leads to business decisions. And so I was driving home from an event where I got in a conversation with a peer, another entrepreneur, and we are talking about our businesses. And he's like, "So what impact does Prop Fuel have on your client's business?" I was like, "Well, it's hard to say and it's hard to measure and blah, blah, blah." And but what struck me at that moment, wouldn't it be cool if we could identify like how many members an organization has before they sign on PropFuel, and then after they sign on PropFuel, how many members they have? Well, member data is very difficult to find, but you know what isn't is revenue or dollars. So if you go to 990 tax data, that's public information. So we have access to revenue. And while I know there's not a direct correlation between prop fuel and revenue, there is some correlation. I wanted to see if there, I didn't know, I wanted to see if there was a correlation. So I sent a note to my team. I was just like, hey, what if, this is like, this blew me away. This is just awesome. It was like 8:30 at night. I put a note into Slack saying, hey, what if we could tell, or is there a way you can think of how we can pull revenue data from a ProPublica 990s on all of our clients and uh, compare it to revenue data for those that are not our clients before and after, like before signing PropFuel and after. And so by literally 12 hours later, 8:30 a.m. the next morning, because and part of this is like when you're into the tools and you come up with a challenge, it turns into a game. And so my marketing guy, Alex, got super excited about this and started working on this. And I don't know how long it took him, probably longer than he wants to admit, between 8:30 p.m. and 8:30 a.m. But he basically took all of our client or all of our the names, the organizations that we're working with, search ProPublica for that data, put it into Clay, then added in a whole bunch of other associations. Like we're talking thousands and thousands of associations into Clay. Clay is like this AI tool for processing. It's almost like an AI spreadsheet for enriching data and capturing data and hosting data and so on. And it sent that back out to ProPublica to find out for non-clients what their revenue numbers were over the course of a 5-year window or so on. And then it put it into Claude to analyze the data. And then we verified some of the stuff. So all this in AI. Now we went through, I want to say 15,000 associations to come up with this data and compared it to the organizations that we work with that have been with PropFuel for more than a year. That was the key variable. And we were blown away by the results. So like this is the big one I always point to, which is, and I like this example because I'm selling to you guys because this is brag worthy. But at the same time, I'm also, yeah, but it's true. Like this is awesome results, but it's also a really good example of how we used AI to do something that it would take a human months to produce. And we had no idea if the data was actually going to yield something valuable. And it turns out it did.
Yeah.
As it turns out, our clients grow on an average of 8.68% in the first year versus the industry average growth of clients that are not using PropFuel of 0.98%. And then of course we got some other numbers in here, which I think are really interesting. But this is an example of using AI and the data to come up some really interesting stuff that we never would have been able to identify ourselves without the ability to process tons of data.
The key there though is still is like having that curiosity, right? The fact that you're constantly asking these questions of what are we doing? What impact are we having? How can we share that impact with others?
Hmm.
How can we broaden and deepen that impact across the customer base? It's just like it's a constant conversation now, which is prevalent. I think certainly in our two companies and in other of the associations that we work with that are really doing amazing things now. There's this constant loop of curiosity, asking questions, trying to get answers, working through it, and now you can iterate that so much faster with generative AI tools. It's a lot of fun.
So Jennifer says dumb question, but when you say built, and it's not a dumb question, Jennifer, she says, when you say built, what does that mean? Entering the right prompts. So when I say built, what I mean is uh, creating a process to produce an output. Now, it might be a project like this one was a project where it's not necessarily an ongoing thing. It's like we put a bunch of data into a spreadsheet, had the data do a bunch of things, come out with the results, and then analyze the data. To me, that whole thing is what I call built. When you're looking at tools like this or like Rob did, these are things you're actually building. And by building, what I mean is you're interacting with Claude Cowork to have it write some code, and then you're taking that code and you're doing this thing so that at the end of the day, you end up with a tool that you can interact with. And so that's what I mean by building is creating tools that you can continue to interact with after you created it. And so, like, that was our client ROI analysis. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we've got this revenue intelligence agent. I'm going to call these agents. I'm going to use that term rather loosely. This revenue intelligence agent that essentially listens to our calls. There's no secret we're recording our phone calls and sales calls and our client calls and interactions. And now we can analyze the conversations we're hearing in our sales calls so that we can get a understanding for what are the big problems that people are coming to us to help them solve. So this is revenue intelligence. And then we have Salesforce AI analyst. So using Claude, we can now through the MCP, which is kind of like an API for AI stuff, it allows Claude, that again, that's the AI tool that we use at PropFuel. It allows Claude to understand the data in Salesforce as if it's a person going into Salesforce. So now I can use natural language to have Claude give me answers as to what's happening in Salesforce with our clients. So Salesforce being our API. Autonomous multi. I don't want to go through all of these because I don't want to take the time, but my
I thought,
point with all this, what's that?
I thought when Dave said he's not going to go through all of them and he starts going through all of them, I love that. But
Nope. Look, I'm not even going to tell you what autonomous multi-threading is unless somebody says what's autonomous multi-threading.
yeah.
Nope. Okay. So, yeah, those are some examples of how we're using AI not to build apps for our kids, but because we built apps for our kids and we found some level of curiosity, now we can apply that to the work we're doing. And so now let's take that one step further. Let's take that from the way we're doing work inside of PropFuel to actually applying this mentality to the platform. And so when you look at tools, generally in software tools, regardless of the genre, if you look at software tools in general, especially for membership and marketing, you've got, generally speaking, again, static lists of people. You've got a lot of manual effort in building things. And PropFuel fell in this category even last year for the most part. You've got data in different places. I don't think I couldn't say PropFuel fell in that category. We tend to bring data together, but a lot of systems have disconnected data, and you've got people that are in there building things. This goes back to the manual effort. You have builders and administrators of a platform. And so
Yeah.
with AI, we've built this thing now called Membership AI. Very, very proud of Membership AI. We just released Membership AI to beta testers, and now we're in the process of rolling it out completely. We got these dynamic segments. We've got tons of automation around creating campaigns. You've got these things we're calling signals, which are like finding needles in a haystack. So this goes back to like the volumes of data. And now what we can do is based on all the data that we can pull into PropFuel, we can identify really interesting points about your membership that you would never see on your own. It's incredible. So now we could take those signals, turn them, marry them together to create segments and turn them into recommendations. So we can say, hey, based on what we know about you, when we know a fair amount about you from all the conversations we've had from your website and from the signals that your members are giving us, we think these might be the top 5 things you want to consider doing with your members. And by the way, do you want us to do it for you? So it turns you more from a builder and an administrator now into a strategist and a decision maker. And this is the very, very early stages of this. So imagine what the technology like PropFuel, for example, and Betty, imagine what it's going to be like in 2 or 3 years from now. I mean, we are already making our job is to make your job super easy to do what you got to do. Um, by the way, the signals is one of the most exciting parts, I think, about what we've done with PropFuel um, in terms of incorporating AI into it. So now it's looking at the data to identify churn risks and positive renewal intent and visitors seeking certification on your website. Wouldn't it be nice to know who wants the certification so that you can connect with them either on the website or through email? Negative feedback, people that need some attention. So these are some examples of those signals. And so that's it, man. That's everything I got on PropFuel. Rob, talk to me a little bit about Betty and how you're now taking those personal use cases of AI and incorporating it into the business.
Yeah, I think, and again, that's just what I've loved about watching where PropFuel's gone, and it's helped because you've kind of led me down the path of this as well, Dave. But it's understanding what we're capable of doing as a human now that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to do ourselves. In my previous roles, selling association software, we've always relied, for instance, on sales engineers to be able to build out the ability to do a demo. And like I don't have the budget to hire sales engineers, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to need it. So just a quick experiment that I did, is it possible if I give Claude Code some access to some of our proprietary Betty kind of technology, just the anonymized stuff about how our widget works and how we deploy Betty, for instance, could I start to build bespoke demo sites for new associations that come and talk to us rather than just showing the same old Betty demo kind of over and over again? And it was pretty interesting to use Claude Cowork and Code in conjunction with each other. To the point now where I can say, and I called it Mara, I was like, Mara, we received a new inbound demo request for, it's like, build me a demo for X association. And it'll go through a whole series of steps and everything that I would normally, all the questions and answers. And this is where the curiosity is layered into the instruction set for the AI. It's like all the questions that I need answered or that a sales engineer used to have me answer to get this done can now produce a publishable and demonstrable version of Betty on a web page that I can show, and then I can send to a prospect and say, hey, we've trained a version of Betty, a very light version of Betty that I can share with you. And now I can do that. And it takes less than about 8 minutes now to go from an inquiry to a published version of a HTML page with our widget built into it. That's been kind of life-changing for me, particularly as I want to keep, our sales team light, because I want our investment to go into our customer success, customer growth, and our product teams. So knowing that this is possible now is kind of game changing, and I use it every day. So that's been a lot of fun. I think on the next piece now, like Dave, the other
All
stuff
right, there we go. Is that the
yeah,
right one?
this is the one. Yeah. So this,
Whoops.
no, go back
I
one.
don't know what. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
This is
No, no, keep going
we're
the
having a
other way.
system breakdown here.
Go back.
There we
Do,
go.
do me a solid. Yeah.
Okay.
This is so from these experiments that some of our teams started running for themselves back in Q1, we're like, oh, hang on a minute. What if? And I think this is part of the culture of curiosity within a team, right? Every week now, we're having these discussions about what if we could, what if we did this, what would it look like? And some of the strategic shifts that's making for us is on the left hand side here. Like, we've had this process by which we onboard new associations to Betty, and the more dynamic that becomes, the more interaction we have with our customers, the better it's been. What we're learning from our customers about what works in our onboarding process, doesn't work in our onboarding process. We're starting to iterate through that. And in fact, part of this process, the connection of data, the connection of content, actually, your favorite middle son actually works on Dave for us. So Sam works a lot in what we're learning from Sam and what he's been experimenting with as an example has now given us the courage to say, you know what, we can build an onboarding system. And an onboarding system that goes through the same 5 steps, it's repeatable every time. Any agent that we need to pop out the end for a particular use case for any association, we believe we can make this a system. And this idea, the confidence to pursue this has come from the individual experimentation that our team has been doing kind of internally. Subsequent to that, also building a website and a CRM agent that is analyzing what are we doing, where are we winning, what problems are we solving for customers, has also shifted the way we are positioning Beti. There's the old way of getting access to knowledge. There's the old way of building out user experiences on the web for members. And now there's the Beti way. I think we're all experiencing
I like that. The Betty way, the
yeah,
better way.
yeah. I
Very
mean,
nice.
we used to search, get lots of lists of links that we still have to blah, blah, blah. That, search is dead. Prompt first experiences now, asking questions first is very fast becoming part of our daily experience. So what does that look like for an association that's trying to present that same experience to its members? So there's the old way, there's the Beti way. Again, all of this has come from our customers being curious about what is possible using a technology platform like Beti, and that being infused into just our own culture of being open to experimentation, to try new things. And all of a sudden, it's becoming part of the way we deliver our service. I think the last example here that we've got is this is the Beti Insights portal, which came as a direct result of the curiosity of some of our product team in how to present information back to our customers that helps them in their job every day. In the early stages of Beti, in 2024 particularly, we heard from some of our customers that they were getting access, they were using the conversation history of their Beti to drive agendas for their membership and marketing meetings, for their events meetings. What are people asking about? How is Beti helping? And then using that as data. And we're like, there's got to be a better way of presenting that. There's so much intelligence out there. We needed to create some insights that have some impact. And so this intelligence, insights, impact is really driven where our Beti Insights portal has developed until now and continues to develop, so that as our team started to think about what does it actually mean for Beti to answer all of these questions, or our customers' Betis answer all of these questions, what content is she using to prove that she is accurate in her responses, all of these things, we were curious about that. We knew that our customers were then curious about that. So how do we present all that information in a way that we can meet them where their knowledge needs are? And this is kind of the result. And the ongoing development of our Insights portal is all about those sort of things. What's a lot of fun, actually, you can see up on the top right of the screen there, it says, ask Beti what your users are saying. This is kind of our inception moment. Some of our customers have got versions of Beti, like shout out to say, the American Society for Quality has Quincy. Quincy has multiple instances working simultaneously. There are thousands of conversations going on concurrently with Quincy from their members. Thousands. It's now almost impossible for the team at ASQ to be able to go through all those conversations and glean the insights from it. So we built a version of Beti that talks to Quincy so that they can go and ask Beti to look at all the conversation history in Quincy and bring the insights to them in a conversational interface. So inside Insights, Beti talks to the customer's version to get those insights out and write reports and draft an email to the boss, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a lot of fun. And again, all of this just comes from questions like, what would it be like if we did this or tried this? And that's where that curiosity really starts to take shape.
Thanks, Rob. I think that's a wrap. So what we have here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you are not a um, a PropFuel or a Betty client, I think these links go to the demo page if you'd like to sign up for a demo. Is that accurate? Brittany, can you verify that? Also, do we have links to these that we can put into the chat? And while we're here, any questions? Happy to take while we're waiting to see if there are any questions. I do want to say this, Rob. There's a really nice integration between PropFuel and Betty. We are totally different companies. I want to be very clear about that. Although it is a little weird because my son works for Rob, as you referenced in there, but we are totally different companies, but we do have a really nice integration between the two. So if you're using both Betty and and PropFuel and you're not aware of that, reach out to one of your client success managers and they'll help you with that. Or reach out to Rob or me and we can help you with that too.
Yeah.
Bob wants to know what's the difference between Betty AI, user intelligence gathering and reporting, and PropFuels. Um, let me try a crack, and then Rob, maybe you can fill in the blanks.
Sure.
PropFuel is a platform that's designed to listen to your members, and we do that by asking questions at various points of the user journey through email, directly on the website, and over SMS. And so what we're doing is your membership team actually is asking questions throughout the member journey to learn more about your members. And then based on how they answer those questions, we're giving them things that are more relevant to them. Now, Betty, on the other hand, actually, Rob, why don't you explain what Betty is? And I think based on that, that should clarify the difference between the two platforms.
Yeah. So Betty is designed to do a specific job for an association. And to be an expert in that job, she needs access to the knowledge base that she needs to learn. And we can coach her to do that job. So the user intelligence that she's gathering is what are the questions, what are the knowledge needs that an individual user has? So at that moment in time, someone has a question on their mind. Mostly they're not greatly formed questions. It's just like, I have this knowledge need. Help me navigate this knowledge need. Betty uses the entirety of her knowledge base, which is the proprietary content of an association that they have chosen to make available to her that she has learned. And then she starts to respond and engage in these conversations. It's that backwards and forwards, the interaction, with also the references to the knowledge assets that are being used by Betty in order to engage in that conversation, which forms the basis of the intelligence. So it's mostly knowledge itself, but there is also some interactivity. How many times the question is asked, how many times that user comes back to ask different questions. And I think that's where the interplay between PropFuel and Betty has started to take shape, that a PropFuel campaign can actually then trigger a conversation in a customer's Betty, which then digs a lot deeper into a particular, you can start to pull on the thread in Betty and have a conversation using the association's knowledge base as the content sources.
Here's an interesting way I just thought of while you were talking of explaining it. Like PropFuel asks your members questions. Your members ask Betty questions. So your members are asking the most knowledgeable librarian in the association, Betty, questions that they might want to know about the industry.
Yeah.
And PropFuel is your association asking members question to get to know them better. All right. I don't see any other questions in here. Rob, thank you. That was fun. I love talking about AI. I love talking about our companies, and I always love talking about the products too. So thanks for joining me to do that together.
Mate, great to see you again. Thanks to your team and my team for pulling us together again.
Yeah,
And
right.
good chat, everyone. Thank you.